Welcome to today's edition of Daytime Dialogues. It's my great honor and privilege to have one of the leading voices in our religious Zionist community join me today, Rav Moshe Lichtenstein. Rav Moshe Lichtenstein is one of the Roshei Yeshivot, Yeshivat Har Etzion. In fact, it's almost 15 years to the day since he was appointed the Rosh Yeshiva. You'll notice he's moving and he's going around because right now in Alon Shvut, there is an azakah, an air raid siren that just went off on the timing of when we were supposed to get together. And so if he continues to move, and if there's some little bit of distraction, I hope everyone understands these are unusual times.
It's good for the dramatic effect.
Yes, it definitely is. So Rav Moshe, thank you so very much for joining me today, especially with everything that's going on. And first of all, the immediate question, how is your family and how is the yeshiva doing?
I'll start with the country, not with the family of the yeshiva. The country is grieving. And the last day or two, as the numbers take on faces and the statistics become biographies, it's very, very sad. And I came back from a funeral 2 hours ago, and unfortunately, it's not the only one. It's the country is grieving. I think it's important that we should acknowledge this. There's so much attention is about there may be a war, there may not be a war, but in the meantime, there's been a massacre, and the country is grieving. The mood is not so great. That's and if you ask me how I am personally, so the truth is, personally, I have a heavy heart. Unfortunately, I know many. I know people who have been murdered. It's not easy. Aside from that, Baruch Hashem, my personal life is fine. But like the rest of Israel, there's been a general mobilization. We have sons-in-laws, a daughter who are all who have been who are either in the army or in Shirut Leumi in those areas. This concern. It's that's the honest truth. There is concern.
Are classes going on? Are the shirim still meeting in the yeshiva, or did so many of the boys leave?
The high schools and elementary schools are closed. The yeshiva is working and not working. It's I'll say the following: anyone from army who's been in the army and above has been mobilized from Shiur Gimel, the third year and onwards. We have 2 students instead of 300. All of them have been called up, and matter of fact, I'm going later on this evening to visit a group of them. They've all been called up. So the yeshiva, in that regard, it's empty. We have the Americans, Australians, South Africans, and the younger Israelis, and we've been in session. We've been learning. Everyone's a bit distracted. It's hard to focus and concentrate, but we think it's important that the torch of Torah should continue to burn brightly.
50 years ago, both of us remember the Yom Kippur War. We're about the same age, and the documentary that Har Etzion put out with the describing all of the things that were going on, the role your fathers at Tzal took. In fact, this famous story of him handing out toilet paper to the boys on their way out, because he said they thought they may have thought of everything else but this. When this tragedy struck, and I guess the azakah is now over and you're back into your office. When this tragedy struck, what was the reaction of the yeshiva? You're frozen for
just one moment.
No, you're back.
You mean this time around?
This time around, yes.
Hello?
Hello, yeah. This time around.
Yes,
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear
yes,
me?
I do.
Yeah, this time around. In other words, we've heard the stories of 50
It was
years.
very complicated because it happened on Simchat Torah. And we were told early in the morning that there was security issues down south, because Alon Shvut is a relatively isolated village. It's also 100% from. We had the details were extremely sketchy. I went home after Musaf with the knowledge that 5 people have been killed, and of course we now know it was 5 people was unfortunately not the number. So we deliberated. Initially, based upon very scanty information, we decided to continue Simchat Torah. When it became clear that it was more serious than normal, we consulted. We deliberated whether or not to stop Simchat Torah and or not. At the end, we decided that we're not going to let Muslim terrorists or anyone to take over Simchat Torah as well. So we use the following formula. The Rambam talks about that on Rosh Hashanah Kippur you have simcha, but not simcha yetera. You have a certain amount of happiness, but not excessive joy. So we switched the Simchas Torah songs from happy, bouncy, clappy songs to more emotional, introspective, Aderet ve'emunah, and things like that. And we shifted to that. But it was, but then again, though, everyone. My son-in-law was called up later in the day, and my nephew as well. It was not a simple Simchat Torah.
And you've written about the role of what we call a Eid Sarah, and where Eid Sarah comes. And part of what you were writing about was talking about the time when there's a drought. When an Eid Sarah, this is a time of tragedy. How does our focus have to shift? How do our responses have to shift?
First, I said before, I think we have to acknowledge that's an Eid Sarah. People often don't want to acknowledge. I think it was true during COVID. People are hesitant to acknowledge that there is a real Eid Sarah. I think, especially in the religious Zionist camp and Rav Kook's very optimistic worldview, it's always, well, we overcome. And I think there's a hesitancy to acknowledge that the situation is indeed bad, and that's an Eid Sarah. So I think, first of all, we have to look at the situation, assess it, and decide that that's an Eid Sarah. Now, here I'll say something which is maybe the reverse of what I would intuitively say, or the reverse of what I felt during COVID, for instance, which is, and I've been approached by many Talmidim in the last 2-3 days. Many people find it, it's right. Normal halacha says that there's a special mitzvah to daven in Eid Sarah. Tefillah b'Eid Sarah is a separate mitzvah. It's one of the most basic mitzvot, and we all understand that when you're in distress, you cry out to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. A child in distress cries out to his mother, and the Jew cries out to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's the most elementary religious emotion. That's what we normally would assume. That's exactly how I felt during COVID. Every davening was a davening, and I remember this is 40 years ago, the night before I went into Lebanon in 1982. We davened Ma'ariv. It was a Wednesday night. We davened Ma'ariv on a Wednesday night, like Ne'ilah. But here I find in the past 2-3 days, and I find it's true of many Talmidim who have been saying the same thing, they find it difficult to daven or to be focused. It's the regular same davening. It reminded me of a passage that the Rav writes in one of his essays, in which he writes when his wife was ill, he couldn't find God in the hospital. He had the daven outside the hospital. My impression is the following. I think on one hand, people are very distracted. People walking around constantly thinking about relatives, and I think that they're very distracted. It's difficult to focus. Davening requires concentration. It's like this. Maybe don't quote me, don't record me on this, but
we are being recorded, and we are being.
I know, and so I'm putting my neck out. My impression is that you're hearing much more calls on the Haredi side to make a day of to make a fast day, and to have prayer assemblies. And I think it's not because, unless I think in our side, and I don't think it's because they're more deeply, they feel the urgency, or they're more religiously attuned. I think it's the reverse. I think that people, Alon Shvut is empty of anyone under the age of, any male under the age of 40. I think people are so distracted. I think at the end to make a tanis, to fast, to make a prayer assembly, you need a certain amount of
I wouldn't say detachment, but clarity, the ability to concentrate and to focus. And when you're so distracted, it's very difficult unless it's extremely acute. If you feel that you're in front of an extremely acute danger, so then you focus. But when it's kind of twilight, you're apprehensive, but it's not acute. I think people are having difficulty focusing
So
on
what,
everything, including davening.
so what should be the response?
I think the response should be it should be to focus on davening. It should be but I'm saying it requires an effort. It's not as intuitive as you expected. I do think that if the danger become much more acute, either in the civilian front or in the military front, I think the people who confront the dangers the response will basically be that. I think the second response is, and this I felt it 40, 50 years ago, and now as well, what you have to experience and feel, I think it's first and most trust. There was bitachon. I think you need two things. Both come under the rubric of bitachon, but first and foremost, it's of trust. That you feel that you're relying upon the Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're leaning on his shoulder. As I said before, people often seek support from a parent, even when the parent can't help you. Now, a soldier in the battlefield will cry out to his mother, or someone in a dentist chair will scream out to his mother. The mother can't help anything, but there's a sense of, I get support. I feel it's kind of deep, almost an existential kind of support. And I think that's what we have to see, experience in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that B'tchuva Hashem, not only that he should give you a better outcome, but simply because when you're in distress, when you're afraid, so you want to lean on his shoulder, you want to feel he's close to you. You don't want to feel forlorn, or the lonely man of faith. Prayer is one way, but the lonely man of faith wants to feel he's not lonely because he's with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Additionally, you also have to have the sense, yes, Kadosh Baruch Hu will help you. That I think you need certain confidence, besides some trust. I think you need confidence. Confidence. Now we know that Chas v'Shalom, there will be people who will be in great danger and may not survive. But I think each individual needs to have a sense of confidence that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is looking after him, that should be confident Kadosh Baruch Hu should help him.
So that emunah and that bitachon would lead to the possibility to focus, but it's difficult now because
I think so, but I think you have that, in some kind of deep subconscious sense, even if you can't focus, even when you're not focusing. But I believe that you do feel because Baruch Hu is there for you, lahavdil, and maybe not lahavdil. When my wife had lymphoma 30 years ago, it wasn't my basic experience was not one of question or theology. It was just a trust that I just felt Kadosh Baruch Hu was much more engaged with my with our lives then. I think he's engaged with us now also.
And in terms of the great divide that had been going on in Medinat Yisrael, and now people are coming together, there's a unity government as of today. Is this something that you have hope will continue even beyond the war, or it's something that's too far ahead to anticipate what will be?
Unfortunately, I am not an ish besorah. I don't know if you have good tidings in that regard. I feel that the people, I feel that the Am, the common person, I think are resilient, are strong, and they're very good basic instincts. But the leadership, I think, has failed us. It's not only that there was intelligence failure and a military failure, etc. The whole mindset, the whole a dual set. One mindset is I will do what's better for my political needs. Take, for example, there was clearly a collapse of the whole system here in the past few days. Basically, there was a collapse of the whole system. Now, it's hard to detach that from the fact that when they created a government, they took all kinds of government ministries, which were whole, and divided them for political purposes. They detached one unit and gave it to so-and-so, and another unit to so-and-so. And In other words, they carved up all kinds of ministries to solve political problems. So when the feeling is that you don't ask of what's the best interest of the issue, but Pilgate, it creates a lack of confidence, and the rift, which was here, I can say like this. I am a member of a group which united left, right, it was a very diverse group of people from all over, very serious people. The people that was from all walks of life, and the group continued the finger pointing and the accusations, Shem Shamayim, but even after things began, and at some point that they shut down the group for comments for a few days to chill everyone out. And I'm afraid the moment that the war is over, I'll say like this: the moment the war is, I would expect someone to take responsibility. Since I don't think it's going to happen, so I'm afraid that things will return to the way they were before. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I'm not too optimistic.
As a Rosh Yeshiva of one of the major yeshivot Hesder, how does your role shift now between last week and this week?
Well, it's always a dual role, but in normal days, my father loved to bring this metaphor. Chazal tell us that in Rosh Hashanah, the shofar would blow a long blast, and the trumpet, the chatzotzra, a short one, because the chatzotzra accompanied the shofar, and the tanit, the chatzotzra would give a long descent note, and the shofar would accompany it with shorter notes. Normally, we focus upon the main focus of activity are the talmidim in the yeshiva and the learning and the Gemara, and those in the army are, of course, important to us. But on our day-to-day activities, we engage them much less. Now it's the reverse. First and foremost, we're concerned with the talmidim in the army, and the talmidim in the yeshiva are the second, are maybe the secondary concern, because they're set up and. Like if tomorrow morning I'll be offered to go visit the Chayalim in the army, I will cancel a share, which I wouldn't have done 2 months ago. There's a lot like this. There's one level we have to take care of the students in the yeshiva, and the Bnei Chutz La'aretz have a lot of concerns. It's a new reality which they're unaccustomed to, and we have to make sure we have all kinds of staff members. I fear Ramim who are in the army, so I'm a substitute now. I became a substitute teacher. And but another level, there's the need to tend to the soldiers, to address the situation, and also, unfortunately, also to deal with. It's not a primary responsibility, but in the yeshiva's broader circle, there have been families who've lost. We have alumni who've lost children, and being part of the. And part of the circle of the mourning is also now much more prominent.
So when you visit your talmidim in their army bases, or I don't know if you go further than that to the front, what do you tell them now?
I tell them, first of all, I want to hear I want to hear what concerns them and what are their questions. And I gave us a long sikha on Monday. You could, in Hebrew though, you can look it up on YouTube, and my basic messages were all there. I could say like this: first of all, I tell them it's legitimate. First of all, the Kadosh Baruch Hu should watch over them. That they should. We spoke before about the trust. That I told them that in the Simchas Torah we read enough Torah about Yoshua ben Nun. So Yoshua ben Nun is Rosh Yeshiva, and Yoshua ben Nun, Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai u'Misra Li Yoshua. Yoshua basically, according to the Rambam, he established Torah Sheba'al Peh. Yeshua was also the first general. Like Yeshua was the first yeshivat is there. He was both a general and the Rosh Yeshiva. And Yeshua was told Chazak ve'ematz, Chazak ve'ematz, Chazak ve'ematz 3 times, which means it's difficult to go to war. It's legitimate to be concerned. It's legitimate to have fear. The Rambam writes it's also a person to have any fear. With all due respect, I think I disagree. No, I think it's legitimate. A person should, I try to give them legitimacy for their fears and their anxiety. Tell them that fear is a negative emotion when it paralyzes, but a positive emotion when it sharpens your senses and gives you a sense of dependence upon the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and it's legitimate to be concerned, and that but they should, on the other hand, they should have the confidence and the trust, and they should be self-confident and have trust in Kadosh Baruch Hu, but that it requires an effort, chazak ve'ematz, and that each person should find a way to express that.
What are their concerns? Well, what are the kinds of questions they're asking?
They have made at the moment the training, at the moment it's like, even though everything that happened the last few days is reminiscent of Yom Kippurim, what's going on now is more reminiscent of the 6-day war, when they had 3 weeks of a waiting period before the war began. So at the moment, most of them are training, so they have a host of halachic shilas, all over, from hilchos tefillah to kashrus to halachas which deal with war. They have a variety of halachic issues. Additionally, we speak to them about exactly these issues, about how much a person should be concerned, how much it's legitimate to be hesitant. There have been a few questions about people who weren't mobilized. Can they volunteer? Should they volunteer? Should they leave the United States and come especially to Israel, or is it unnecessary, superfluous? That's at the moment, that's mostly it.
Can a person volunteer if they haven't been called up, or is it by placing themselves in danger?
It's not a simple moral question. It divides into two. One is the practical issue. And before you start dealing with the moral issue, one's the practical issue. Baruch Hashem, the percentages of the color percentage has been huge. It's the army doesn't want 100% mobilization; it wants 130%. It's gotten about 180%, whatever. The rate of mobilization far exceeds what was expected. So there's very little need at the moment. There's no real shortage of manpower. There are other issues, but manpower is not an issue. So that factors into this. If you're coming, are you coming for your personal self-fulfillment, or are you coming because the army needs you? This is not Mechamot Yom Kippurim, and there's no shortage of manpower, and therefore you're not really coming to save the army. The army has what it needs at the moment, so it's more self-fulfillment. That, I think, changes the moral equation as well. I respect people who decide to volunteer, and I think, I certainly don't feel that I can tell them that that's not right. But if a person, for various circumstances, does not want to volunteer, or he's hesitant because of all kinds of other considerations, I say to them, the idea of service is you place yourself at the disposal of Tzahal and of Am Yisrael. Since the army doesn't work with individuals, the army mobilizes units, brigades, divisions. The army, Chaim Yankel doesn't interest the army. The army cares about Brigade X and Division Y. And because of that, so if the army has its needs supplied, and you follow the directives, they decide they don't need you, so services to do other things. If they decide they need you, services is to go up. But I don't have it within me. I respect and admire those who volunteer. I don't think that we should. I don't think that we should say that it should be done. And you have to factor in also, of course, and there are various relationships that are affected by this.
And to people in Chutz La'aretz, Americans like me, what would you say is our role in this?
I would say two or three things. Number one, what the Rambam calls to feel the tzara. In other words, what I mean by that is to really be engaged with the mood, with the news, and not only to read the New York Times, the details or the military analysis. I mean to feel the mood of the country, the mood of grief, the somber mood. For instance, I went to shul on Sunday morning. Everyone was on tiptoes. Everyone was somber. It was like a heavy kind of, to try to feel as best as possible through websites, through local Israeli media, try to feel the mood, it's not only empathy. I think it's rather try to immerse yourself in the mood of the country. That's number one. Number two, translate that into support. First and foremost, tefillah. No, it's translated into tefillah, into but when I say to feel the mood and to do tefillah, what it means it should affect your whole day. Normally I get up in the morning after Shachris when I drink coffee, I scroll through some newspapers on the web. I haven't looked at any newspaper article, or almost any newspaper article, unconnected to the current situation, because your whole being you're immersed in it. So I said, Jews of Chutzatz, even though you're far away, try to immerse yourself in what's going on. Now, the third thing is the following. I don't need or expect, that's like this. I think Israel is an extremely resilient country. And people here are, people don't here need, people to come and give them this kind of quote unquote moral support. Baruch Hashem, I think the country has tremendous amount of resolve. And I went to a funeral today. I told you 2 hours ago of a tremendous tragedy. A 30-year-old who was murdered by down south. And unhesitatingly, a few of the Maspidim said, this is, we will make sure that Am Yisrael continues, and we'll make sure that we continue to fight. So we have a lot of resolve. And I don't need, quote unquote, people to come from, delegations or whatever to come for support. What do I expect? I expect the following. I expect that person living I live in Israel. I'm not going anyplace. A person who lives in Chicago or New York, I don't expect him to get on a plane and change his life. He made his life decisions many years ago. He decided his life decision was to live in Chutz La'aretz. I'm fine with that. And I recognize that Am Yisrael has many locations, and the Jews live in Europe and South Africa and Australia and North America, etc. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I do expect, though, that if your life plans were to be in Israel, you stay. In other words, what I don't want is an exodus now of people who came for a year because it's difficult. If you're a 25-year-old or 14-year-old and your plan is to be tomorrow in high school and college, I'm fine with that. I don't expect or need anyone to come, especially and now because of the crisis. But I do think that the resolve that Israel has should be part of American Jews as well. You came for a year, stay for a year. You came for a bar mitzvah, stay for the bar mitzvah. Don't change your plans. That I do expect. If people change their plans, I'm disappointed, because I expect them to continue their plans. And I allow myself to say this. I have a daughter doing Shirut Leumi in a place which is far more dangerous than Alon Shavut. She has the option, she has the option of leaving, saying it, and she's not. And that's what I expect. If your plans were to be here, so be here. Rav Hutner once told my father that he could never be Rosh Yeshivat Hesder. Now, not because he didn't say because of the ideological gulf. He told him, I couldn't be a Rosh Yeshiva in which when there's a security crisis, one person is mobilized, puts on a uniform and goes to face danger, and the other one, because he has a different passport, he disappears. So what I expect is, it's our role in Israel to make sure that all of the arrangements in terms of safety and all the precautions are taken, and there's all of the protection in terms of shelters. That's our responsibility. I think the responsibility of people who are here, regardless of where they live normally, is to stay. That I don't necessarily encourage people, Americans in yeshivot, to go to join the army. If they join, I respect it, and I very much admire them. But I don't expect that. But I do expect if you came to live for a year, you stay for the year, even when things are maybe somewhat different than they were in the past.
Moshe, unfortunately, our time is up. You have Shirim and you have other things you need to do, but I greatly appreciate the time you gave us tonight, especially in the middle of an Azakah, in the middle of an air raid siren, and all that you do for Klal Yisrael and all that you do for our Chicagoans who are learning with you and who are planning on staying with you as well through this coming year. Continue to stay safe, continue to inspire your Talmidim, and continue to lead. Klal Yisrael. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. And what's more, continue to support us. But I mean, support in the sense I said before, tefillot, of being engaged. And B'ezrat Hashem, better days will be coming. And Erdof Oivai Vasigim, and the Kodesh Baruch will give us Oseh Shalom B'Ramav, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.